Lovely, thank you. So good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to recruiting and retaining your team. Joe, if you could just share the screen, if that's okay, the slides. So what we'll do is we'll start with some introductions, I think. So we ran this about a year ago. This event, similar but not exactly the same, because recruitment and retention is just so important for you as managers within your organisation, and we're going to be covering just that. We're going to be talking about the challenges when you're looking to recruit, and then how to get past those, and some strategies, some tips for getting past them and really being able to really recruit the best you possibly can within quite a difficult market when there are quite a lot of vacancies around. And then we're going to be looking at how you retain your team, how you keep them happy, how you keep them busy, we keep them busy, but keep them happy, and keep them motivated, because people have itchy feet very quickly. The days, obviously, of where people take a job and that's for life are long gone. And so what we're going to be doing is looking at, okay, how do you retain people, particularly in a small firm where they might be looking elsewhere and they might be thinking that there's something better. And we all know that Gen Z do often have more itchy feet perhaps than their predecessors did. So how do we hold on to those staff? I'm Melanie Pearl, and I am the Employment Programmes Manager at Work Avenue, which means I oversee some of the programmes that we run, things like this, and a variety of others as well. And I'm also an employment advisor, which means I meet with people on a one-to-one basis and talk to them about applying for jobs. We also have a job placements team, as you know, many of you who would have advertised on our jobs board, and we have a jobs board where we will advertise our vacancies, and so we actually are liaising with both applicants and employers and hope to give you sort of both sides of the coin, so to speak, and look at both perspectives, which I hope will help you as you move through. My background is HR. I started at Legal and General, worked in local government, Hertfordshire Borough Council in HR. Then I was the HR director at the United Synagogue. And for the last 10, 12 years or so, I've run my own HR and career coaching consultancy, and I still do that. So I speak to managers of predominantly small SMEs about their recruitment on a day-to-day basis, about how they're going to motivate their team, about issues that they've had within their team. So hopefully we'll bring some of that information to you as well. Joined by Joe Sadie as well. I'll ask you to introduce yourself, Joe, as well.
Thanks, Mel. So good morning, everybody. My name's Joe Sadie. I head up the business team here at Work Avenue. So we provide free of charge business advice and business skills workshops to businesses looking to set up, start or grow and scale. So we obviously talk to many people who have got past the setup stage and are thinking, should I take on somebody? How do I go about doing it? And my background, as well as lots of other issues, obviously, and my background is as a I've also had my own sales training business, and so have recruited and trained and onboarded many people for different teams. I started life working for a media owner for the independent newspaper, and then worked through my own business with many different organizations, helping them with recruitment and retention, as well as kind of sales management and sales training. So hopefully we'll bring lots to the table today. And our final introductions should go to Confero, who are going to be our live case study. So could we ask you to introduce yourselves and explain what your business does, and then we'll explain how it's all going to work today. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So I'm David Friedman. I'm CEO at Confero. Abby Smith, who is our head of contact center, which probably slightly gives away what we do. So we're an outsourced contact center or call center business primarily. We also have a serviced office business, but the key to certainly for today is our contact center business, where we do a lot in terms of recruiting and managing teams, also running all sorts of functions on behalf of our clients. So we essentially help our clients to manage their customer support, helplines. We do some outbound work as well to help with retention and so on across our clients' businesses. And within that, each of those areas of the business have different teams managing our clients' customers. And so we're probably renowned in many ways as one of the most challenging industries to recruit and to retain staff, but we've been doing it a long time now, over 20 years. And though I can't tell you we've got the secret sauce, we certainly have some really strong processes that we adopt and run on a day-to-day basis to really help us to maintain our staff in the right way and for the longest possible time.
Lovely. Thanks so much, David. And hi, Abby.
Morning, everyone.
Thank you very much. Really lovely to have you with us. So what we thought would work really well is if Joanna and I sort of give you the sort of theoretical, it's not quite theoretical because we are working with employers and clients all the time, but also having David and Abby from Confero with us, who are able to tell us how things actually have worked in the real world as well. So the combination, I hope, will help you as we go through. So planning this event to go through to 11 o'clock, and we will ask you to ask any questions at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat as we go along, or any comments, any thoughts as we go along as well. And what we'll be doing is we will be talking and asking David and Abby to chip in from time to time to give you some real life examples. So I can ask you to move on the slides, please, Jo.
Sure.
So a lot of you already know about us. We were founded in 2006. We help people to earn a living, either through finding a job or building a business. And I'm here on the job side, and Jo Sadie is here on the business side. We also have Melissa with us, who is our head of placements. If you want to just give a wave, Melissa. She's our head of placements. Some of you may have spoken to her already. But when you want to place a job, then she will be the person who you speak to. Really, we help everybody, all stages of their professional life, and over 3,000 people accessed our services in 2023. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to look at some, just really a couple of trends really, and how they affect you, the kind of market that we're all working in, and sort of in a way sort of looking at, okay, why is it so difficult sometimes to recruit? And then looking at how to recruit the best we possibly can, how to define the role. I think quite often people want to put together a job description. Sometimes it's difficult to know where to start. Sometimes they're incredibly long and candidates are put off. So we want to sort of get that balance right. Looking at legal considerations as we go through, when you're right from when you're considering who to recruit. Shortlisting and interviewing, we'll be looking at that process, and right through to making the offer and ensuring that that's legally compliant, and also an offer that your candidate is likely to accept. And then looking at how to retain that employee. So once you've recruited your person, how are you going to keep them on? And how are you going to motivate them? People often many surveys show that people leave bosses rather than leaving organisations per se. So what can you as a boss do to motivate your employee to stay for longer? Not forever, because there's a time when people do need to move on, but keeping your best people for as long as you'd like to keep them for. And also looking at one-to-ones and the importance of them, the importance of communication. And we'll finish with your questions. Next slide, please. So just a couple of trends that we've picked up. So national vacancies decreased when comparing March 23 to May 24. Sorry, March to May 24 with the same time last year. So they've fallen by nearly 15%, according to the ONS. And what we've found on our jobs board is that, yes, they've fallen, but not by a huge amount. There's not a massive difference. But the main point is there's still a lot of vacancies around. And even though they've fallen, they haven't fallen so much that actually people don't have a choice. So there is that increasing competition for top talent, which you will be competing with when you're looking to take on people. There's skill shortages in specific areas, and we know that some of these are renowned for being shortage areas, and some are sort of creeping in as well. Added to that, you've got the rise of the gig economy, people choosing to work freelance. Also gives you an opportunity, of course, to take people on freelance, although you have to consider whether you really want them to be freelance, which means they're working on quite an ad hoc basis rather than regularly turning up to work each day. The changing expectations, I think the last two are probably sometimes the trickiest for employers at the moment, are the fact that people are looking for different things now. They're looking for that work-life balance. They're looking for your flexibility, and they're looking for personal growth, which sometimes within a small organisation is not always the easiest to give. So we have to look at other ways to give it. And I'm not talking about monetary ways to give it. So we'll talk about that. And of course, the trend towards hybrid working, which some organisations are coming out of. Obviously, hybrid working from home started during the pandemic and has continued. And it's actually quite tricky. And I was speaking to an organisation the other day who said, we really need people in 4 days a week. But we are struggling with our recruitment as a result. And this was a city firm who are competing with other firms where it's 3 days a week. And because they have the choice, they will then struggle. So it's getting the balance right, really, as to how you go. So lots of choice for candidates. And then the recruitment and retention can become a challenge. Next slide, please, Jo. And then there's some predicted changes, which you may have read about, that are coming up potentially with the new government. The minimum wage might go up. Now, none of this is certain, as we know, nor is certain the date when it's going to come in. But of course, these are things to be aware of when you're recruiting. The right to claim unfair dismissal. Currently, you can't claim unfair dismissal until you've been in an organisation for 2 years. That may change to move to from day one, except for people who are still during their probationary period. There may be a ban on 0 hours contracts. We know that sort of obviously sometimes they're abused, and other times they're actually really useful for employers. More protection for freelancers, potentially. Equal pay and treatment for agency staff who you may take on. Enhanced parental leave, pay for both parents, new bereavement leave, carers leave might be paid, ban on unpaid internships, unless part of an educational training course. So those are the few things that might be in the pipeline. So moving on, please, Jo.
Is it worth just going to David and Abby to see if any of the trends or the predictions, you've got any comments on that?
Yes, yeah. What do you think, David and Abby? Have you noticed any effects? Obviously not on the predicted changes yet, but the ones before.
Trend-wise, I mean, what are you seeing when we're looking for staff at the moment compared to, say, a year ago?
I mean, I would say from a trend perspective, what we are seeing now is we hold assessment centres for agents. We've got one booked in on Tuesday. Now 40% of the candidates that are attending on Tuesday are from referrals and recommendations from existing staff. So as well as nailing that initial recruitment process, the retaining your staff and keeping them happy really helps us. So the trends that we're seeing, we must be doing something right in all of those areas for our staff to want to recommend people to work at the business. So I'd say that we've got a really positive trend from our recruitment stats at the moment.
That's brilliant. Do you sorry, go on.
Noticing the changing expectations from new employees who are wanting a job?
We do get a lot of requests for hybrid working or remote working, because I think contact centres naturally through the pandemic had that flexibility. What we do here is slightly different, because we are in the office full time, and we very much sell the positives of being in the office, that while you're here, you get engagement from the team, you get support, you get real-time feedback. There's the culture piece that plays such an important part in it. So I would say that's probably the only thing that goes against us on the trends, that we don't face those challenges, people declining because they can't work from home, because we focus so much at the recruitment stage on the positivity of being in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah, which is a good way to do it, isn't it? To actually let people know what the positive benefits are to that. And a lot of young people particularly, and I know I'm generalising, but a lot of young people have said to me that actually I do want to be in the office every day, but there's no facility for me to be in on Mondays and Fridays, and I can't go in. So, you know, it sort of does swing in roundabouts, really. Okay, next slide, please, Jo, or one after. Okay, so we're going to talk about recruitment first, and then we're going to move on to retaining your staff. So we're really looking at, I think sometimes the most difficult piece of recruitment is your very first employee. So if any of you are in the position where you're about to take on your very first employee, we'll be talking about that, and obviously adding to your team as well. So both of those, the best way to go about it. So when someone's left, there could be two reasons really. One, either someone's left or your organisation's grown. If someone's left, the clock ticks during the notice period, work starts to pile up. You really need to spend that time. But sometimes you're thinking, oh my goodness, you know, it's going to take so long. It's going to be such a big process. I can't quite get my head around it. And obviously, as I just said, big step to let others be part of your organisation when it grows. It's your baby, you've grown it, and then suddenly you're getting one new person when it's your first member of staff, and trusting them and keep them as excited as you are about your organisation. Next slide, please, Jo. So when you want to recruit, there are a few things that I would suggest doing. Really, first of all, stop and think. Who do I really need? What kind of person? And quite often you just think someone's left, okay, just got to replace them. Things are so busy, just replace with like for like. Quite often people are even subconsciously thinking about the person who was working in that role before, thinking I just need another Louise because she was, you know, she was brilliant. It's worth taking just a bit of time to think, who do I really need? You know, that person's been there because they've been there, but actually this could be an opportunity to think again. And then there's two things you need. The job description, which is what are they going to do? And the person specification, which is who are you going to get? What kind of attributes do you want that person to have? Next slide, please, Jo. So think of it in terms of opportunities, first of all. We know there are challenges as well. So it is a chance to review the role afresh, come up with new ideas, to perhaps add complementary skills and experience to the team. Very often people, without even realising it, recruit in their own image. That happens all the time, really, because we just naturally do that as human beings. But if you go through the process of actually thinking about what you want and then the person specification that you really need, that can stop that from happening, because it becomes a process, a procedure, rather than you just taking on the first person who you see. And of course, I mean, I know, Alice, Abby, you talked about the fact that you're taking on, you're taking on people who have been recommended by your current staff. And what will often happen, not always, but what can happen is that then you're getting the same staff all the time. But of course, it's all a balance. It's still worth doing that, because you're getting people who are recommended and you're getting staff without having to pay recruitment costs. So of course, you're going to do that. Think about who you really want in the role. Now, of course, you've got challenges along the way. What's the current jobs market doing? Am I paying enough? Think about your salary level. We often talk to employers about salary levels, and find that they really want to stick with the salary level that they have in mind. We will help you. We will help you to advise you and say, from our experience, sometimes that salary level might not be enough, or could be less than you're offering. It can go both ways. And think about what's really essential. What do you really need? What can you manage without? It's always a balance. So when you're taking somebody on, you're never going to get everything you want. You're going to get perhaps 70% of what you want. So you'll start out obviously wanting everything, but then when you meet somebody, it's all about chemistry, fit for the organisation, and you often find that you're going to get as much as you possibly can. And of course, the candidates are doing the same. They're also looking for exactly that right match, but they also may only get 70% or so of what they want. So it becomes a balance. It's not, we make it scientific because we can by producing a job description, a person specification, but in reality, you're not going to get exactly what you want. Next slide, please, Jo, and then I'm going to come to David and Abby and ask you how things are going in your team. So these are this is a job description, which is actually Confera's job description, or part of it, for a customer service advisor in a call centre. Won't go through all of it, because what we will do is we will send you the slides afterwards, and you'll be able to see sort of an example of a job description. But you'll see that I've put in bold the things that are key within them, because I think what quite often happens is job descriptions are too long and aren't really thought about carefully enough. Quite often, I think employers will, because they might maybe completely new to this, will take a job description and will sort of look at somebody else's job description and pick out the bits that work for them. It's really worth thinking, actually, what do I need? Try not to repeat things as you go through the job description, because all that happens is people look at it and they see this great long list of duties and they think, they don't even read it, they just think, gosh, no, I can't do that, it's far too much for me. So things here that have been highlighted are what are you going to do? So you're going to be answering calls, you're going to be talking to customers, you're going to be working to targets, and therefore the environment's going to be pressurized. So you need to know that before you go in, because of that. The call volumes are going to be big. There may be some difficult customers, but you'll also have a script that you need to follow along the way. You need to be able to use systems. You need to be able to work in a team, and you need to keep accurate records on the system. And this is how many hours you'll be working, and over what period of time. And not much more, because I think, people sometimes look at job description and think, oh no, that's not long enough, let me put some more in. So get everything you need so that you get the right person. And then just moving on to the person spec, Jo, please. So the person specification obviously matches the job description, the communication skills, the flexibility, the problem solving. Fluent in English language, and we'll come on to that. Fluent in English language is okay. To say only English people is not okay. So, we'll come on to the use of language to ensure that it's not discriminatory. And good numeracy and IT skills. timekeeping, all the things that you would expect to be in there. And then at the bottom, there's previous customer service experience preferred. And that's really worth thinking about. Do you definitely want them to have experience of customer service? Or do you want them to have good interpersonal skills? Think that through carefully, because what you do will have an effect on the pool of candidates that you get. So if you say previous customer service experience preferred, you are going to get some people who just have good interpersonal skills, who don't have customer service experience. So people will read this quite carefully. On the other hand, if you put previous customer service experience preferred, you are going to get a larger pool of candidates, which means it's going to take you longer to go through them. But if you don't mind that, then it's worth doing. So what I'm saying really is this is worth really sort of giving a lot of thought to. Any comments on that, David and Abby, on how you've gone about your, preparing your job description, your person spec, and how it's working?
What I would say is we regularly review, very much like you said, it was an opportunity when it comes to recruiting for jobs, for us to review those job descriptions. And what I would say is we regularly review them in the fast changing world that we live in. When we write job descriptions, we check the top 10 buzzwords for those jobs out in the market, so that we're not being lost and other adverts are going ahead of ours. We make sure that we're relevant with what we're talking about when we do those job descriptions. And I think it's really important when you are writing the job description, very much when we wrote the job description and we said that, this can be a pressured environment, we're very transparent and realistic about what the environment is like. Because when we do recruit those members of staff and they are walking into this business, and we want them to be a part of it, and we want them to be prepared that they're not walking into something that is going to be completely different from what we've advertised.
Yeah. So a lot of thought, and there's a point there about also thinking about keywords, the words that people are likely to click on when they're searching for jobs as well.
I would also reiterate, Melanie, what you were saying in terms of if this is replacing an existing role and bringing someone new in, that it's without a shadow of doubt an opportunity, because though it's always difficult and you have to go through that period where you're losing someone potentially that's been fantastic for your organization, and you've got to go through the process of doing this and writing your ad and your job description, going and finding someone new, and then the interviews and so on and so forth. If you keep in mind during that process that in an ideal world you're going to look for someone who can actually enhance the previous employee that you had within the organization and add more value to the role, bring in some new skills, bring in some new ideas and elements, and think about what is it that maybe that last person had that you loved, but but there are always some additional elements that you would love them to have had, and perhaps while they've been working with you, not thought about that necessarily during their tenure. But that's the opportunity to say, look, how can I enhance that? Let's drive the organization on by bringing someone even bigger and better. And that should be part of then that job spec and interview process.
Yeah, good advice, thank you. Yeah, and it's hard because when someone's about to leave, that's when things are really busy, and it's taking time out of your day to give that sort of some thought, but well worth doing. Thanks, Joe. Move on, please, if it's okay. So you're having your mind the kind of candidate that you want. Definitely worth thinking about the cultural fit. You will do that. You will automatically be thinking that. You'll be thinking, okay, who's the best person to fit within this team? Just make sure it's not just one person, unless you're the only person in your organisation. It's worth discussing it within the team. Wording your adverts so that you attract the right people, that it's not discriminatory. Things like you know, open language that really opens up your pool of candidates. Things like, we welcome applications from candidates who can demonstrate relevant transferable skills. If you're happy to take somebody who's not done exactly what you're doing, then put things in like that. Experience is preferred, but most important is your enthusiasm, great communication skills and interest in the sector. So that captures a lot of people, but of course makes a bigger pool. So it's thinking those things through as you're going through it. Next slide, please. Okay, so things that you might be thinking when you're recruiting. You might be thinking, you know what, I really want a young person. This is a really young organisation. And what happens is that quite often people, when they're speaking to us and speaking to Melissa and Yael in the placement team, will say, I really want somebody young, but I know I can't put that on the advert. So it's worth thinking, why do you want somebody young? First of all, because, you know, there may be a reason. It may be just that they fit in much better within the organisation. But you might say ideal role for someone looking to start their career in, and that's okay. You don't want to say something like job won't be suitable for someone looking for career progression. If you're thinking, actually, I really want someone who can stay, you might say this job will suit a candidate looking for a long-term role in a friendly environment. The one that often comes up, of course, is candidate must be Jewish. Now, why do you want them to be Jewish? Because you want them to have a knowledge of the Jewish community. So you can say that candidate must have a good knowledge of the Jewish community, and that's fine. So these are sort of things to think around, and we're very happy to talk to you about how we word things to make sure that you get what you want if there's a good reason for doing that. Next slide, please, Jo. So how do you go about advertising your vacancy? So our jobs board is the most viewed page on our website, so we know that it's well worth advertising on it. We have over 100 jobs on there right now. So do contact us if you'd like to advertise any jobs on our jobs board. But it's not the only place, of course. Networking is important. Asking staff, as Confero have done, to help you to find somebody. Social media, use, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, well worth, very good means for talking about your organisation, but also getting staff in. Obviously your own website, other jobs boards. Do use AI to help you to draft your ad, to work out where you're going to get the best candidates as well. And then also consider, how are you going to get your candidates? Are they going to complete an application form? So, or are they going to do a CV and cover letter, asking them to explain why they're interested in the job and believe they're the right fit for the job? If you go for the application form, you've got everybody's producing the information in exactly the same format. And larger organisations tend to use that as a way of comparing like for like. Smaller organisations tend to, it doesn't have to be, but tend to go for the CV and cover letter. I would always say and cover letter as well, because I think then you really find out a bit more about a candidate, and there's a little bit more room for creativity there, so you get a little bit more information about the candidate. Quite often it's useful to put the interview date on the ad, because that way when it comes to sort of 3-4 weeks down the line and you're ready to recruit, you haven't got people saying they're not free, especially if they might be in work already. So that's just a little tip that's worth doing too. Next slide, please, Jo. So just to come on to shortlisting and interviewing now. So you're going to assess each application against the job criteria. Really, once you've spent time on your person spec, really do use it and look for the best match. As we said, it's a balance, it's not scientific, so there will be things that come into play. But do use that as your starting point, that's for sure, and stick to it as much as you possibly can. Do remember not to discriminate. People can claim against you for discrimination right from them being turned down on a job ad. So, you know, just be aware of that. As I said, look for complementary skills, complementary to the team that you have already. And that diversity brings different things to a team and makes it stronger. Moving on, Jo, please.
Before we move on, can I just ask David and Abby, where do you find your apart from the referrals, which obviously sounds quite strong, is there anything else that you found works really well that might be good insight for the people on the webinar?
We've used all of those methods to attempt to recruit. We have specifically for our high turnover jobs like agents, we have an ongoing ad running on our website, but the first place we will always start is by putting all of our vacancies on our website directly. It allows people to apply directly to us. It reduces costs in the long run, and it allows us to assess that person on their skills without being briefed about the history of our company. I like to see people who have done enough research into Confero to understand I'm applying for this role and I want to work for Confero. For other wider jobs, the tougher to recruit jobs, we've used LinkedIn, we've used the job boards, and we follow the same.
Any particular job board which works better than others?
I think that's a good point actually, because I get absolutely inundated with all the job boards that are, oh, you can have a discount if you use us for a month. You can have a discount if you sign up for this. We have a regular, we use Indeed, we have a regular job placing on there. The reason that we use Indeed is because they give us we don't pay for it. They give us the option to sponsor the job, to get a wider range of candidates, or to apply it for free.
But sponsoring the job means it's sort of that's where it is paid for, and we enhance.
Yes, and we enhance the advert and where it's going to go, and it will cover a wider mileage range and skill set, and look for a different algorithm to use for those candidates.
Okay, great, thanks so much. Sorry, Mel, I didn't
really helpful. No, of course, no, really helpful to hear as we go through. So what I'd like to do now is to talk to you about the interview. So you've shortlisted, you've shortlisted. I always suggest around between 3 and 5 people, I suppose, probably 4 to 5 people you want to shortlist. You don't want to interview everybody who fits the person spec if you've got a large number, because that is such a waste of your time. And very large organisations, what they'll do is they'll go through applications and they'll only actually look at the first, I don't know, 50 or 60 that they get, and they'll say, you know what, actually some might get away, so that's so you have to weigh up your time with the fact that you want to shortlist everybody who fits the criteria. So it's not an exact science either, but definitely worth thinking about your time as well as how many you do. So I want to talk a little bit about a suggested structure for the interview. You want to be preparing a list of relevant and open questions for the interview. In fact, if we could just go back one, actually, Joe, if that's okay. Sorry, because we've got a little, just a little example of an interview to show you. We've got Sarah is going to be interviewing Melissa for a job, and what I'd like you to do is it's a very short interview, but just to as they go through, just make some notes of things that you think could be done better, and we'll talk about them afterwards. So over to you, Sarah and Melissa. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I just want to check that Melissa is ready. Melissa, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're gonna just introduce it. So Melissa and I are gonna role play a scenario. Okay, Melissa, you ready to go? Okay, right. Hello, I'm coming. Hi, sorry, I'm coming. I need to just speak to somebody else, sorry. Hello, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Sorry, I'm just busy with 5 different things and I totally forgot about this until I just looked in my diary a couple of minutes ago. So, Melissa?
Yeah, Melissa, hi, really nice to meet you. No problem.
So, I haven't had a chance to look at your CV, but just let me tell you a little bit about us. Let's start with that. We're a family business founded by my grandfather 70 years ago. We sell a range of high-end furniture to the residential market. We've retained our clients for years. In actual fact, we know everything there is to know about residential furniture, very traditional. So this whole social media rubbish world thing, which is where you may, or the job may come in. I hope you're very good at it. Actually, all young people now, not just you, everybody seems to be good at it. Actually, how old are you?
I'm 24. I do have a lot of experience.
Okay,
in
fine.
the
All right,
state.
so 24. Okay, so you're the same age as my son. Maybe you know him. Melissa, where do you live?
Essentially, so quite local.
Okay, you probably don't know him then. Okay, so what I really need now is somebody to take over all this social media stuff, this graphic design stuff. Can you do that?
Yeah, I mean, in my last role, I was responsible for designing adverts.
Hold on,
graphic
sorry, I
design.
just need to take a call. Hold on. No, I can't speak to you now. I have to interview this woman. I'm coming back. Okay. Actually, well, that sounds really fantastic. We're quite a family knit team. And because we're a small team, everybody gets on really well. You look like you're quite an easygoing person, so I assume that you can work in a team. We're like a family.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with people and dealing with different groups in that situation.
Okay, so one more thing. Are you married, Melissa?
Am I married? No, I'm
Because
not married.
I cannot have somebody coming in and then going off maternity leave, even though I'm sure if you want to have children, I'm sure that's absolutely fine, but it actually doesn't really fit with what I need in the business for now.
Sure, so I'm not married, but I'm not really sure, at the moment.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, that's fine. Well, that seems to be fine. I have to go now. I have to take another call. I'll send you an email and you can start in the morning.
Oh, well, I would need to discuss a
Brilliant.
few
Thank you.
things and
Perfect.
deal with.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Melissa. So what did we like? Probably not much we liked about that interview. What did we not like? So just some ideas, just either in the chat or just unmute you or put your hand up if you'd like to just tell us.
Well, I think Sarah can come and work for me anytime.
What do you do?
Honestly, I'm not what you want.
Which one have you offered to Sarah? So, any thoughts, Judith?
She didn't give her a chance to talk, did she?
Sorry, say again, Judith?
I don't think I said anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Somebody else spoke.
Okay. Who's
Discrimination big time. She didn't give her a chance to talk. She wasn't there at the interview. Oh, I can see a lot of bad things happening if this young girl comes to work for her. She'll be learning lots of things.
Absolutely. So much there. Anything else? What else happened in that interview that we didn't like? Just raise your hand or just write something in the chat.
Melissa wasn't allowed to speak or talk about her experience or ask any questions about the company.
Exactly. So she kept talking over her, didn't she? And kept answering for her as well. And whilst that, that obviously is a sketch and is not sort of a real life interview, and of course none of you would ever interview like that, but you'll be surprised how many employers we hear about have interviewed, not that dissimilarly to that, because everyone's busy and it's, I've got to get this over with, and okay, I've met the person, I've done what I needed to do, and that's it. The temptation certainly to talk about your company at the beginning rather than asking them what they know about the company. And I know, as Abby just said to us, I want to find out what they know about the company. So ask them what they know about the company rather than being ready to tell them everything about the company yourself. Is really important. The discrimination, obviously age discrimination, no age discrimination. You're not allowed to ask somebody how old they are. You're not allowed to ask them whether they're married. You're not allowed to ask them if they have children or are going to have children. None of those are permitted. She talked about.
Sorry, can I ask you? Are you allowed to say, "Can I ask you if you are married," or before to that month? Is that no?
Can I ask you, because it's really difficult in an interview. It would be really hard for somebody to say, no, I don't want to say. So you've asked the question by doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
no. No, that's okay. And you know, and ask them open questions. So we're going to talk about the kind of questions. We'll just share the slides again, Joe. About the kind of questions that you will ask to get the best out of the out of the candidate. And I mean, all these things were just covered just now. But what you want to find out is whether the candidate can do the job, whether they want the job, and whether they fit into your team. And every question you ask them should fit into one of those three things without asking them directly. We're going to ask in much more of a roundabout way than that, so that we get them to talk. But that's what we're looking to know. Next slide, please, Joe. So all the questions must be related to the job. You want to sell the job and the company, but ask them about it first. This is a structure for the interview. Give them a chance to ask you questions at the end. So there was no chance for that at all. Sarah didn't give Melissa any time at all to ask anything. You might want to give an additional task. Sometimes that's helpful. It can be like a sort of what was often called an in-tray exercise, which is a sort of the kind of task they might be doing during a normal working day. Often that's asked on the second interview, and that can be quite useful. Very happy to talk through what that might be if you're looking to recruit. But sometimes that's quite useful because interviews are not, I mean, we do our best to make them as good as they possibly can be and as much of a predictor as to how things are going to be. But of course, they're not completely safe in terms of knowing actually what's going to happen. So seeing whether a candidate can write and can I don't know, whatever's relevant to the job, it's really important. And also tell them what the next stage is. Next slide, please, Joe. So this is a sample structure of the kind of questions that you would ask. Usually an open question at the beginning, tell me about yourself. That's tell me about yourself in relation to your job. They might not, they might tell you other things, but you've said tell me about yourself. If they bring in any family things, don't ask any more questions about them, even if they've brought them up. It's all about the job. What do you know about us? We've talked about what skills and strengths can you bring to this job? Those are nice starter questions. Then examples, like they're often called competency-based questions, where you ask them to give examples of things that they've done before that prove that they can do what you've asked them to do. So give me an example of a time when you needed to communicate well in your job, rather than, are your communication skills any good? Or how good are your communication skills? Much better to ask for an example, because then you're effectively seeing them at work. When have you used your IT skills? Or if they just say, oh, I just used them last week, what did you do? Tell me about the project that you were doing where you used your Excel skills. Challenging situation is a nice one to ask. But lots of examples. I've only put a couple in there, but lots of examples. So you might say, give me an example of a time when you worked in a team. Give me an example of a time when you had to influence somebody to change their opinion. Everything related to the job, go through your person spec and ask questions related to them with some examples. And then what questions they have, you have, and then tell them about the next stage. Next slide, please, Jo.
Say anything that, is there anything here that David and Abby want to add?
I would say we very much focus on the competency-based questions when it comes to our roles. We use a range of techniques really depending on the job role that they're applying for. So our assessment centres, we do them in a group environment where there might be role plays, or we get them to reenact certain activities from the job. So we ask them to complete problem solving activities to make sure that they have that thinking structure in place that they can solve a problem quickly. We use the competency-based questions. We use readout sessions so that we can assess the actual skill set for their role. Certainly for the other jobs that we recruit for, where we're talking about management level or supervisor level, we use the competency structure. When we ask them to provide us with examples, it gives you so much insight more into not only the example that they give you, but the previous experience where they can articulate themselves and they can be creative with what they want you to know about their career.
And I think also for more senior roles, Berlin, you mentioned before, asking potentially someone to present, generally not on the first interview, but certainly second, a situation, a case study, something. If it's a sales role, for example, we might ask a candidate to focus on an opportunity and sort of take us through how they might go and sort of source that opportunity for a new client and take us through their whole sort of sales process, for example, beginning to end. And what that does is it opens, it gives an opportunity to understand people's presentation skills, their technical skills, their thought processes, whether they're a sort of inside in the box type of individual, if they've got some clever outside the box thinking, and that starts to help to define the type of individual they are, and also to ask questions to get the feel for the person, whether they're the right fit and culture for your organization. And that's as important, you know, to whether they're single, married, with kids, not with kids, divorced, whatever, is one thing. But actually that doesn't tell you if they're going to be the right cultural fit for your organization. And that's really important. So asking questions that just help you to get a feel for if they were sitting in a room with half a dozen of your other colleagues, or if it's a small business with a couple of you, even more important, you know, how are they going to fit in? Are they going to add value? Are you going to feel comfortable? Are they going to feel comfortable? That's drawing that information out is really important.
Thank you.
It's
Can I
really
just
helpful.
ask a question? I wondered what cultural fit actually means.
So it's fitting into the organization and the way the organization runs. So when we coach people who are going for an interview, we will say to them, really immerse yourself in the organization. Find out what this organization is all about. What are their, you know, there's internal jargon within an organization always. Try and, you know, really find out as much as you possibly can, either by looking at the website to start with, talking to people who work there, looking people up on LinkedIn, as much as you possibly can, really to find out about the culture of the organisation. You know, how are you going to fit in? If you can, go and visit it before. You know, that's what we tell people. But I don't know, David, whether perhaps you have an example of this kind of question you might ask that will give an idea as to what you're looking for when you're looking for cultural fit.
I don't think it's one question. It's
No, just an example. No, of course not.
yeah, it's really trying to draw that out of a person, understanding what they've done before and the sort of organization they've worked for previously can help you or organizations, if they're more experienced, will start to give you a feel. You know, they always worked in the public sector and you're a sort of private entrepreneurial business, and if they worked in the public sector, they might be very, very process driven, but actually you're looking for someone more entrepreneurial, and you know, or vice versa. So that's part of what you might be looking for is the background side of them. Do they, you know, try to draw out? Are they, you know, are they more comfortable working in small teams? Are they, or you know, what's their favorite working environment? Where have they worked before? Has it been in small little offices, or is it in an open plan? And it's drawing out those little things which will start to tell you whether they would naturally walk in and, you know, day one just feel like they've been there for a year already, or not. And obviously, look, not everyone, you're not necessarily looking for a perfect piece in the jigsaw, and it's as much attributes. And obviously, you know, any organization should be expecting to induct people through and train them, help them, mentor them, and mold them as well. So someone who is flexible and moldable but have got a lot of other attributes, might be what you're looking for as well. So you're not necessarily looking for the perfect fit. That could, that if you're looking for that, you probably picked the wrong person, because actually they may feel they're already too big for the job. So it's trying to get that mix right.
Thank you. Does that answer the question to
It does,
a
thank
certain
you.
extent, Annabelle? Yes, good. Because that, I mean, I think, and if somebody comes, just adding to what David said, I think if somebody comes with, experience from another organisation, then you can be asking questions about how that will transfer to your organisation, and seeing how they feel about working within your organisation. Many years ago, I went for an HR role in a factory. And I was very young at the time, and I clearly was completely the wrong fit. But they worked that out by asking me lots of questions and by knowing. And now I look back on it, I think absolutely I would not have fitted within that particular environment. So it's really sort of working out whether somebody fits within a department or not by asking the right questions. My final slide, Joe, please, and then I'll hand over to you. So just once you've then gone through all of this and you've selected your candidate, you then want to make them an offer. Any offer that's made, whether it's verbal, whether it's in writing, whether it's in terms of a full contract, is an offer. Once they've accepted it, that is effectively a contract. But you still need to provide a full job offer. You might just start off with an email that tells them about their job title, salary, hours, and so on, and then get the acceptance, and then give them a contract. But they do need a full contract before by day one. And those are just some of the things to think about. There's also a link to ACAS there to get some templates. If you ever want those done more, then I can put you in touch with HR people who can, sort of, when I say more, like if you want them done properly, professionally, then of course we can put you in touch with people who can help. So we're going to move on now to talk about retaining your employees once you've recruited them. Over to you, Jo.
Thank you. So yeah, we're now going to kind of keep them, and the one thing we're not going to talk, unfortunately, too much about is the onboarding process. I don't know if David and Abby just want to kind of talk a little bit about onboarding, because I often notice when people recruit, or businesses that I help, that they don't have the best onboarding process. And it's really, really important to make sure that the people that you recruit are trained, understand your systems, understand what the other people in the organization do, so that they can really fulfill to the best of their advantage. So it is, you obviously ideally want people to hit the ground running, but you've really got to spend some time and put some time aside and work out a whole process. And, it might be a couple of weeks, it might be a month, as to how that person's going to kind of learn and start becoming skilled listening in. David and Abby, I don't know if we can just have a little bit from you as to how you onboard your, somebody into Confero.
Well, whenever we recruit someone, they come into the business with a 3-month probationary period. So that first 3 months for us is key in making sure that we invest in them. If we don't invest in them and the areas of the business and prioritize what we want them to learn, that won't, and the reason that we've recruited for them in the first place, we're not going to receive the return on investment very quickly. We are, so we'll focus the onboarding plan on an individual basis, always pre-planned. So they come in on day one and they have their standard induction to the company, the expectations, the procedures, the policies, and then from that moment on, they will have a plan directed at those biggest gaps in the business where we need them to fill, where we need that return on investment quickly. Now, what that will mean is pre them starting, we will book the necessary meetings that they need. We will have training lined up for them so that day one, when they walk into the business, they know what the next 2 weeks is going to look like, and within that 2-week period we will have scaled out their first 12 weeks onboarding, so they know where their priorities are. That includes time with all relevant stakeholders and time for training, and then time to talk about the tasks they have completed on their onboarding. Did they understand the training? Have they delivered the task? Have we ticked it off? Can we move on to the next bit, or do we need to revisit it and make sure they're competent before we move on?
Thank you. Thanks very much. So hopefully that's helpful to everybody in terms of kind of onboarding somebody.
Would it be possible just to repeat that last bit, which we just said? That would be really appreciated.
We are recording it, Josh. So
Okay, great.
We're going to send out the recording. So is that all right that we can?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. So just in terms of other things as to kind of, you know, how do you keep them motivated, and how, again, we could probably have a whole day-long webinar on retaining, you know, motivating and retaining your team. But so this is very light touch, but just a few things, again, trends in the workplace. Obviously, if somebody was born from 1997, so a Gen Z employee, you know, 4 in 5, Bloomberg has said 4 in 5 Gen Z employees want to move jobs this year. You know, that age group tend to move jobs much more than, you know, maybe people that started work many years ago. You know, this is quite scary, I guess. Only 1 in 3 people have received praise or recognition in the workplace. 75% of employees say they left their job because of their boss or their manager and not because of their job. And I think that is highly telling. And then obviously, I guess this, you know, since COVID, what isn't a massive surprise is 78% of those who work from home said it gave them an improved work-life balance. But, you know, that's something to think about, is how you're going to set the job up and what is needed. So if we look at kind of somebody who's thinking, oh, should I stay or should I go? Then let's think about what people want from their boss and the company they work for. So people want a positive and supportive work environment. They want meaningful work, and we will focus a bit more on that. And meaningful work can include empowerment and autonomy, you know, so not somebody that's kind of micromanaging every step of the way. They want to be clearly told what the goals and expectations are. As we just said before, in the trends, they're looking for recognition and feedback. Some people want career development and training, a work-life balance and fair compensation. So those would be the things that people are looking for. So in terms of a supportive environment, I mean, this could, again, we could cover lots of this. So trying to create a positive workplace culture, you know, helping staff to feel valued, and that if there's something that's a challenge for them, that they can speak out. Involvement, having team building exercises, and also when they start, understanding how their job fits into the organization as a whole. So obviously, you know, sometimes roles tend to be quite siloed. So it's kind of, you want to feel part of the business as a whole. So understanding how that fits in. Obviously, really important without being discriminatory or without going against the law, getting to know your staff. So doing that in the right way. Leading by example. So if you're saying to people to do something, then you also have to be doing it, not just saying it. Encouraging work-life balance. Again, that might be different things for different people, but maybe consider, you know, that the job could be different hours across different times of the week, rather than just, you know, a certain number of days or hours. Just look at how you could provide work-life balance. Looking after well-being. Obviously, these days, well-being and mental health is very, very important. And in many companies now, especially in the big companies, you know, you've got people who are well-being leads, and you know, you have whole well-being consultants. Obviously, that's much more difficult when you're working in a very small organization. I mean, encouraging work-life balance obviously then also comes into hybrid and flexible working, and that comprehensive induction to the company when people start. David and Abby, can I just kind of come to you to, you know, to have a quick chat as to how you create that supportive environment for your staff, especially if you are asking people to do full-time in the office, which is, as you said, you know, more unusual these days, I guess, than usual in a way.
We have a big focus on wellbeing here, but when I say big focus, it doesn't need to be the big consultant bits that we look at. We make sure that when you know, our supervisors, our managers, if we see something isn't quite right in the office, you know, if we see someone isn't behaving and acting like their normal selves, we'll always go and do a real-time check-in with them. And it can be anything from that real-time check-in to when they are off sick, making sure that when they come back to the work, we have done that return to work process. We have made sure that they're well enough and they're fit enough to come back to work. And that echoes in so many different examples that we see. We see staff asking for additional hours a lot of the time that would push them over the limit. We don't allow them to work 7 days. We don't allow them, we take the breaks really seriously. We encourage their breaks, and some will say, can I work through my break? Can I work through my lunch and finish early? And we always encourage those breaks for everybody. So it's the little things that you do that show the empathy and care that you have over the people that you have employed, to make sure that they know. And when you're saying no, explaining the reasons why, you know, or if someone's missed their break, you sit down and explain to them it's so important that you have your break, because you know, you will burn yourself out, you will get tired. So giving those explanations when you are spending time with them. And I think we do a number of activities here. From day one, a senior manager would always come in and do a question and answer session and check how their first day's gone. And we do those regular check-ins on top of the immediate managers that they have. I think we do Ask Abby sessions where anyone can come into a room and ask me anything that they need to ask me in a completely confidential environment, to make sure that they feel like they have lots of avenues. We have a confidential suggestions box, and we have a confidential advice service that they can use as an employee assistance program. We have lots of tools that put together that know that they're supported. But one of the other big focuses that we have that you talked about on there was a celebration of success. So we have so many methods of rewarding all of our staff, and we do it through multiple channels. So every week there's an email that goes out where we talk about shout outs from different departments for different staff who have done something outstanding. We have a reward and recognition meeting once a month where we award a number of different certificates. So Employee of the Month, or the Certificate of Excellence, or the Top Quality Performer, and making sure that they understand the role that they are playing in the business is key. And we've got a reward and recognition wall where we put the certificates up so that their name will be on the wall for the next 12 months, and they can see and feel valued. And we never underestimate the power of a simple thank you to all of our staff.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
And then just on top of that, just corporately, we also have a little program where after post probation, we offer a medical health, but different levels of those depending on seniority and so on. But even at the most basic level, which can be quite inexpensive, there are we offer cash plans which just allow our staff to be able to go and get up to 250 quid a year of dentist bills paid, or physio, and chiropractor, whatever these things. But that also comes with a 24-hour helpline for any medical queries or mental health issues as well that they can tap into. And it's there's even at a small level, I don't know what the minimums are, but I don't think they're huge necessarily. It's a really fantastic program at a relatively low cost at the lowest levels. Obviously, it does go up through the levels, but it's something which any organisation could possibly tap into. And then we also do like weekly, Friday treats, I don't know, different themed food and so on. Just and it's just all lots of little things, isn't it? That add up rather than one big thing, but it's being consistent with those rather than ad hoc, which makes the difference.
Thank you.
I love the fact that you've got a combination there of things that do cost money and things that don't. And although you said low cost, and I think that's the important thing, is to be thinking about things that don't cost as well. You know, the shout outs are great. They don't cost a penny. So yeah, just really nice combination there.
Thank you. In fact, I'm going to come back to meaningful work and just go to recognition and feedback, given we've just spoken about that, and then I'll come back. So yeah, so this is what David and Abby were talking about: shout outs, team meetings. It's nice to have people, people's names on the wall. I think also when you're showing appreciation, specific about what you especially liked or what was good, rather than just, oh, well done, showing that appreciation. But other recognition might be something like you're offering projects to help employees develop. They might like doing something that's a bit different in addition to their work. And also be very aware that you've got to accept mistakes, and because that is how people learn. Obviously, David and Abby, you had a nice example of your incentives. I know quite a few companies. My daughter has like an early Friday, finisher at 3 o'clock on a Friday, summer Fridays, which is quite nice. The treats, team company building. I do think you need to be very, very aware of people's, that it shouldn't all be, let's say, alcohol related, because there will be people that so that any treats or team building things you do has to be relevant to a large proportion of your staff. So please make sure that if you're organizing any kind of team building, that it's not all focused towards, let's say, alcohol or drink related exercises. And fair pay, obviously, this is part of recognition and feedback, making sure that you're offering a competitive salary and a fair salary. We're going to come on to one-to-ones in a minute, and I'm just going to go back to meaningful work. So Benjamin Franklin said, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. So as we talked a little bit about the comprehensive induction program for new starters, but it is important to continuously train people, continuous development, not just when they first start. And then I think, as I said before, think about when somebody does start, how their work fits in with the overall mission and company values. So, having full-scale company meetings to really explain kind of how the company's doing and how you're doing and how they all fit in. And then for individual roles, setting clear, SMART goals and objectives. So SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So making sure that any goals and objectives and targets are that they're clear about what they are and that they are achievable. I do remember once doing some training for somebody in a PR company whose role was also not only to account manage her client, but also to bring in new business. And the company directors wanted her to bring in 4 new clients a month, which was totally and utterly unrealistic. So it made it very demoralizing for her. So, it's really important that the targets and the objectives for the role are actually achievable and realistic. And that, ideally it plays to their strengths. When you're explaining a new task or something that needs to be done, explain, delegate, listen in, but then when you know that they've got that task under their belt, then let go. You really need to be able to trust them and empower them so that you're not micromanaging somebody, and just understanding that their way of working may be different to yours. And that, I think, Mel would, if you're taking on somebody that might be neurodiverse, then I think this whole way of working and recognizing people's differences, there might need to be some real changes that are actually made. Again, I think that would be a whole different webinar that we could do. But do understand that people who have difficulties, whether that be ADHD, might be neurodiverse, might have physical impairments, you know, that you will need to make adjustments to somebody's work environment, possibly to help create a diverse and to help them fit in and get the best from that person. Anything else that you feel I should add, Mel or David and Abby?
Well, from my perspective, I'm conscious of the fact we have 5 minutes left. So I think just a quick anything that you'd like to add, obviously, because we really value your opinion, David and Abby, and then we'll open the floor out to if anybody's got any questions, or feel free to put them in the chat.
I've got one more thing to discuss, which is just the one-to-one, but so I'll just move on to the one-to-one, because obviously, you know, recognition and feedback and helping people learn from mistakes and explaining things often comes through a regular one-to-one. And we would always recommend with anybody that you're managing or they're managing, you know, you have a manager managing somebody, that you set a time and a date weekly, or at the very worst monthly, where there can be some on open and honest communication, where questions can be asked, where you're listening, where you're offering support. Again, it gives you a chance to give some recognition and feedback where they're doing well, and that you can agree actions if things need to change. So in terms of managing a staff member or team members, that's really, really important to have those regular one-to-one sessions. And other tips from getting the best from a small team, you know, obviously Mel said recruiting, just to finish off, carefully consider what and where to advertise, you know, for the interview. Do they want the job? Can they do the job? Will they fit into your team? You have to have a written job offer and acceptance with a full contract, and do your diligence. Don't just take the first person like Sarah did, you know, without actually properly interviewing the person. And then when you're retaining the best, you know, make sure that you do try to provide a supportive environment, making the work meaningful, giving recognition, and keep communicating, I think, is the main thing that we would suggest. So has anybody got any questions? You will be receiving the handouts. Yes, we will be sending them after today. Yes. But any questions about retaining, recruiting, anything that you want to ask David and Abby? All quiet. Now's your last chance.
It's not really, because you can always contact us and ask any questions that you do have. And we will be sending the slides, as Jo said, and on the last page you will see our contact details. So do feel free to be in touch with either of us with any questions that you have specifically to your organisation.
And if you wanted business advice, you know, then please do feel free. We'll send out a business advice form if anybody needs some business advice. What we'd really appreciate just before you leave is to scan that QR code and fill in, which we will send along with the slides, but we'd really appreciate any feedback, good or bad. Constructive feedback is a gift. So we'd really appreciate any feedback. And if you could just scan that QR code and fill in the form, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, David and Abby. We really appreciate you being our live case study and bringing the theory, as it were, to life. I think that was really helpful and insightful. So
Pleasure.
thank you very, very much for that. Really, really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I hope it helps. And if if anyone has got any follow-up questions, be happy to receive those, and we can come back to anyone in through you guys or individually if there's anything specific.
Thank you
Really
very, very
appreciate
much.
Okay.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. All the best.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks.
care.